Hello guys, thanks for tuning into the channel today. Today I'm going to talk about, this is my first video on the addition of the Mineland Wildlife Area, which is the strip pits in southeast Kansas. If you guys would, before I get the video started, just support the channel. It's real simple to go down to the bottom of the screen, just right over here in the left-hand corner and hit like. And if you guys are liking the content I'm putting out, hit subscribe. That helps build the channel. We did have our first on the channel, our first 1,000 subscriber, our 1,000 view video. I'm getting up there to quite a few subscribers. I know 169 subscribers might not seem a lot to you guys, but it's a lot to me, so that's a big step. First 1,000 view video was pretty cool to see that you guys are enjoying my content. So let's get into this first here. What is the Mineland Wildlife Area in southeast Kansas? Okay, the Mineland Wildlife Area in southeast Kansas is where they mined for coal years ago with steam shovels. Big Brutus is one of the most commonly known ones around here in this area. I don't know if they teach that in many other history books or not, but they mined for coal, and Big Brutus was a big one around here. So basically what they did is the coal, I guess, grew in strips. So they mined for the coal, and some of the pits are up to 60 feet deep. I don't know how deep they was when they dug that coal out, but now they're 60 foot after everything's washed in and they filled up with water. Then the Kansas Wildlife and Parks came in and stocked those with fish, and now we have some awesome fisheries out here. Most of them range, the bigger ones, anywhere from 20 acres to, what's the biggest, around 60 acres, I do believe I've had figured up right around that area. And there's a whole bunch of little bitty ones too, and those are some really good ones too. I'll get those covered as well. I'm trying to cover as many pits as possible. There's a couple of little, honey holes I won't give away that not many people know about, but I'm going to go over all the bigger pits with boat ramps, anything that we fish in the Columbus Bass Club. I'm going to cover those pits, let everybody know where those fish are located and where the best places are to my experiences in those pits anyway. That does not mean they are the best spots. There might be something I don't know about, which is completely possible. This hopefully will help some of you guys out there that don't know some of this stuff. So this is some of my little secrets coming out as well in here in these pits. Okay, the first one we're going to do is pit number 44. And that is known as Brutus Pit. That is the nickname for that. I'm also going to give you guys the nicknames in here just because I grew up around here. I know all the nicknames. Some people don't. And they're like, oh, we don't know the nicknames. We only know the numbers. And then you talk to locals and they say, we only know the nicknames. We don't know the numbers. So number 44 is Brutus Pit. It's pretty easy one to find. Big Brutus sits right over the top of it. So it's really easy to find. So, okay, the first screenshot right here coming up. If I do this right, I should be able to talk over the top of while this screenshot comes up, if I can figure that out right. If not, there'll be a 10-second delay in there of the picture, and then you'll get into me talking about that here in a second. So, okay, the first cove is the East Cove. It's where the boat ramp puts in. So right there, just to the south, it's real flat right to the south right there. And I personally have never done any good there, but that is a place they ought to be in the spring when they're spawning. I mean, you get around there, even in the spring, if the wind's blowing in it right there, in the springtime or even in the fall time, if that wind's blowing right in there, you could throw a spinner bait if that wind's blowing in there like that, especially in the fall, because them shad should be back in there if it's earlier in the fall. And then, any plastics in the springtime for bed and bass, because they hate plastics. So any kind of nuisance on a bed right in there where they bed at. I've never done no good there, but that does not mean you'll not catch them there. So I wanted to let you guys know about that here. Just right there by the boat ramp. You can even fish it right from the road. Just walk up there, right, fish it real easy. And then the next spot is the green right there. And I can't remember exactly where it's at because it's been a little while before I've been in there. Because it's been like 2 years since I've been in there, so I can't remember exact location where that brush pile's at. But there's a brush pile there, which is a beaver pile, I do believe. I think it's like a beaver home. I don't know the exact name of it, but the beavers took a whole bunch of sticks and they got them stacked right there. And I do know that is a really good spot to catch fish. It's a really good spot to catch a big one. My son had one about 4 pounds here a couple of years ago in a tournament in there, and it got off on him. So that's a little honey hole right there. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but maybe some people missed over it and don't know about it. So that'll be in the green right there. And like I said, the red will be the I don't know if I mentioned the color or not, but the red to the south there is that flat I'm talking about. And then the blue right there, that's the point. anytime you're anywhere, you want to fish points, especially if there's wind on them. If there's wind on points, always fish them because there's usually fish there. It don't matter what time of year it is, they're always there. They're better in the spring and are better in the summer and the winter, but the transition periods are good too, right? When we're going from spring to summer or fall to winter, that's another great transition period. Or winter to spring, anytime, just pretty much anytime. Points are a great place to be. And then the purple, that bank right there is really good. I've seen a 4-pounder just caught a couple of years ago in a tournament right there. And I've seen quite a few in the past caught off of there as well. So that is another good bank. Now we're going to get into the second screenshot here, which is the second cove area of the lake. Really, not the lake, but the pit, Brutus Pit, the middle section. The red right there's probably going to be a lot of people mad at me for putting this out there, but I mean, it's pretty obvious. If you look at a map, you know where it's at. You know they're there. There's a small little cut right there. There used to be an old tire out there. I don't know if it's still there or not. Last time I was in that area, there's like an old tire. It's like a duck feeder sticking out of the water right in there, and that holds big fish. I don't know why that area holds big fish. It is because there's a little cut right there, and they especially springtime, they move in there to spawn. The fall, they move in there to feed because the shad move back in there, and they can corral them in there, especially if there's wind blowing back in there. The wind blows that shad back in there, and it corrals them. It creates kind of like, just anything. You always want to back something into a corner when you're trying to, corner something and eat it, instincts or something like that. You always want to back somebody into a corner. So just picture that with the shad, and that wind blows, and then there's that little pocket, and it pushes those shad into that pocket, and then the bass can go in there and basically just feed on them and then come back out to deep water. So that's a really good spot right there. I know of lots of 4 and 5 pounders coming out of there, lots of 20-inch fish coming out of that area right there. Like I said, there's probably going to be a lot of guys mad at me to put that out there, but that's why this content's going out there so everybody knows. There's a lot of people out there that don't know this stuff, that haven't fished the strip pits, and that's my goal, is to get more people out to the strip pits. So let's get on to the next section here, and that's the purple. That's the points right there. If you have wind blowing on those points, I have caught a 5-pounder off of that point just outside of the flat. There's a big, I'll get to that here in a second, just up to the north, which is the green right there. Is not a flat, but a shallow, swampy area. And that point right there, it'd be on the east side. I caught a 5-pounder. What was it, 5.14 or something like that? I forget how big it was. 5-something. Out of there on a spinnerbait in the fall. That was back 10 years ago now. I guess it's been quite a while. 10, 12 years ago. Caught another 4-pounder that same day on the point right across. I forget which one it was. It was the one east or the west. Not the ones, just the ones going into that second cove right there. The wind's blowing on them. The fall time, throw a spinnerbait. Wind's blowing on them. Like I said, the points are always good. That back swampy area, I've never done no good in there, but it looks amazing. There's standing timber in there. There's all kinds of stuff in there. I guess maybe I've never been in there when the water's up or the right time and just ain't done no good, but there's got to be fish in there when the water's up in it. So fish it, because there's fish in there if it's the right time. So that covers that area. Now let's get into the next section. That is the third section, which is the far west section of Big Brutus. Okay, there's a lot going on here. It might not look like a lot, but there's a lot going on here. You got a third cove. I'll get into that here in a minute. I've never done no good back in there. I've never really fished a whole lot back in there. Might be why, but I've tried it a little bit, but never done real good. So let's get started on the first spot. You'll see some red dots right out in the middle right there. Like I put 2 of them on there. And there's some, I forget how many brush piles are out there, but there's 1 or 2 brush piles, there might even be more than that, out here on that flat. There's a big flat. Pretty much, I forget where it starts at, but all the way from that swampy area, all the way to in front of Big Brutus on that, there's a rock bluff right there in front of Big Brutus. There is a flat out there, and it comes, I'm trying to remember, 50, about 50 yards out, 25 yards out. It comes out there a long ways, that flat. It's like I said, out there a long ways. So there's brush piles out there. And if you hit those brush piles pretty much any time of the year, if in the wintertime, you want to fish them with a jerk bait, fishing with a jig. Pretty much any time of year, fishing with them a jig or jerk bait. Jerk bait's wintertime, fall time, colder waters, what I like to throw the jerk bait. Then the jig, it works all year round. Big worms in the summertime. I'll get on a lot here in a minute, so I don't keep this too long for you guys. So And the brush pile's on the flat. And the big flat is that whole green area right there. And then that flat kind of comes out there where you'll see those red dots. They're out there somewhere, the brush piles are. If you got side scanning or any of that stuff, you can find them pretty easy. If you don't, just get out there with a big heavy jig and work your way around and you'll find them. It just takes a little bit of time. Next is the blue. There's a blue area right there. So that blue area is the bluff wall right in front of Big Brutus. Now, when is this the best? This is the best in the summertime and the wintertime. This is where those fish go down. They come up to feed when they're ready to feed, and then they go back to deeper water because that's where the shad go. In the summertime, they come up to feed in the mornings, at nights, then they pull back to the deeper water. I've seen a 5-pounder come off of that bluff, so that's another good place to catch a big fish. Now, further back in that cove, just right around the corner from the bluff, there's a steeper bank on that north side. I didn't mark it right there, but on that north side right there, I've done good on that bank too. I've done good on that south bank, but not really back in that cove. Once you go back in that cove, I just stop catching fish. So, okay, now let's go into the lure selection when you get into Big Brutus here. So, wintertime, jigs and jerkbaits, that's pretty much what I would stick with. I would not get away from a jig and a jerkbait. That would be my two lure selections. My swim bait. I would throw swim bait. That is, I take that back. Alabama rig works really good. I'm not an Alabama rig guy. I don't throw it. I hate it. I think it shouldn't. I mean, just recreational fishing, go right ahead. But when you get into tournament fishing, just get rid of it. It's not, to me, it's not just not fishing. We won't get into that. We'll get into that later. So, all right, in another discussion sometime down the road here. So, a jig, a jerkbait, and a swim bait. Okay, I like to throw, at this time of year, a 3-inch swim bait is what I like to throw. I like to throw a bigger jerkbait, Vision 110, Berkeley Stunner is real good. That's a megabass Vision 110, a Berkeley Stunner. I like to throw those two. Swim bait wise, I like to throw a 3-inch big hammer or a 3.5-inch big hammer, and I'll throw that on a heavier head, about 3/8 head, and I like to kind of just drag it along the bottom. You just want to reel it real slow. Let it hit the bottom, then reel it back to you real slow. You don't want to get in no big hurry with that. And then a jig, I throw a 2K jigs. A wrecking ball is the jig I like to throw. I like to throw a 5/16 or 3/8 ounce in that. And you don't want to get in no big hurry. You just want to drag it back to you real slow in the wintertime. And then we got the springtime. Springtime, you want smaller plastic worms. Not 10-inch worms or any of that in the springtime. I'm not big on that anyway. Maybe somebody does good with that. But I like to throw a 7-inch or a 4-inch. 4-inch big hammer works really good. Used to throw a 7-inch power worm a lot, but the 4-inch big hammer ringer worm has kind of taken the place of that here the past couple of years. That big hammer ringer worm has something magical about it. I mean, I used to be a 7-inch power worm guy until that big hammer ringer worm came in. My son actually helped me find, I've been with big hammer for years. And my wife kind of got me onto that big hammer ringer worm. She was throwing it around one day and kicked my butt with it. And I was like, well, that might be something. So I gave it to my son. And I was like, sure, try this, buddy. See if it works. I know, it's smaller, catches a lot of fish. And he started slaying them on it. And then he was catching bigger fish. And I was like, okay. So I've actually, like I said, I won a couple tournaments on that here the past couple of years. So that got me onto something. So those two worms there. Color-wise, I didn't mention that. Color-wise, in the jigs and jerkbaits, you want to go anything black and blue in there. It gets real dirty in Brutus, so black and blue is a good color. Green pumpkin works about anywhere. Jerkbait-wise, I like a clown jerkbait, or even, like a sexy shad color works really good in there. Or Pro Blue 2, anything with a little bit of chartreuse in it works really good for the jerkbaits. Springtime, like I said, your plastic worms, the colors I like to throw in there. It's called the Magic Crawl when you're talking big hammer ringer worm. Red shad, power worm works really good. And then black power worm works really good. Blue fleck don't work too good in there. June bug's another good one. Don't forget June bug in there. June bug's really awesome. A wacky rig. Don't forget a wacky rig. Any worm, pretty much wacky rig. The best is a Cinco. Everybody knows that. They sink better than about anything I've ever known. Just a Gamakatsu, or not Gamakatsu, but Gary Yamamoto Cinco. Brush hogs work really good this time of year. Brush hog and baby brush hog. Baby brush hogs work better in the springtime. Earlier in the spring, later in the spring, the bigger brush hog. Either way, either which one you want to throw works really good. A spinnerbait in the spring under the right conditions, if you got a lot of wind, works really good. So, summertime, your bigger worms. I've really tore them up in there in bigger worms. My favorite big worm is an old monster. That is a Zoom Old Monster. I like to throw that in Candy Bug. I like to throw that in June Bug in there. That is my 2 favorite colors. Candy Bug's a little secret I got of mine that a lot of people don't know about, but I love that. Won a lot of money in Florida on that lure color right there. It's kind of purplish. And June Bug Red works good too. So that's 3 of my favorite colors right there. Then the Ringer Worm in the same colors. The Power Worm in the same colors. A jig once again. Once I get to the summertime, I like the Wrecking Ball. Still works good, but I like to throw a little more finesse jig. Depends on if I'm fishing up shallow or deeper. Depends on what it is. The 2K jigs, Wrecking Ball, 2K jigs, Red Zone gets you down there a little deeper. It's a football head. That Wrecking Ball works fine out there though. But once grass starts coming in, it gets a little harder to throw those. So I like to go to a 2K jigs little punk, 3/16 ounce, 5/16 ounce, depending on how deep I'm fishing with that. And then again, a brush hog, and then also a topwater, a buzzbait works really good in the summertime as well. So then we get back to the fall. Try to keep this video short, but it keeps going on, and that's just got a lot to explain to do. So hopefully people will keep watching. Jerk baits in the fall. Buzzbait works really good in the fall. That's something that's kind of overlooked by a lot of people. You kind of got to dedicate yourself to it. Cloudy days is when the buzzbait works better. Spinnerbait. If the wind's blowing in there in Brutus, throw a spinnerbait. That's I like to throw a 2K jigs burner spin in there. Works really good. Just white with chartreuse in it. Those are the 2 colors I like to throw with spinnerbait wise in there. A crankbait. Crankbaits work good. Square bills if you're up in the shallows. The crankbait I like to throw in the fall there is a Norman middle end. That's the crankbait I like to throw in there. So that does take me back to the springtime, early spring when it's cold. Do throw a wiggle wart or rock crawler. I forgot to throw those 2 in there. You'll catch a big fish on those as well once they're feeding on those crawls. So hopefully this, guys, helps you out. Hopefully, I don't know how many views I'll get because not many people know about Southeast Kansas and how good the fishing is here in the strip pits. So that's my goal. So that was pit number 44, Big Brutus. Hopefully this helps you guys out. And if it does help you guys out, give me some comments. You got any questions? Hit like and subscribe is the biggest thing if you guys would. Thank you.